so you never see it in action. Unless you watch Mehdi Hassan, because he will, boy, he'll get people.
Or Pete Buttigieg.
Or Pete, yeah.
Because
Pete's really good at it.
I'm really tired of y'all just, you know damn well you ain't going to win an argument with Pete. Stop it. Just stop it.
I wouldn't invite him on to
nothing. Literally. However you feel about Pete, fine. But stop trying to debate this dude. Oh, and then my new friend that Thea's introduced me to. Why do I forget his name? Black Power guy. The guy who actually coined the phrase Black Power.
Oh, Stokely Carmichael.
Yeah, Stokely Carmichael.
But what was his other name?
Kwame Ture.
Thank you. I can never remember that. I was like, well,
you got to look at some of the debates. There's going to be a show because I literally.
Was he Stokely Carmichael first and then Kwame Ture, or was he Kwame Ture and then Stokely? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there is a great debate that I have that I'm going to do a whole show on because they have a multitude of 60s and activists, and Stokely Carmichael is on there. It was a phenomenal watch.
There's a reason he's my hero. For political heroes, I place him above Malcolm. That's how much I love hearing that man speak, and the way he talks and the way he dissects things is just, it's a masterclass. The only person who I would say may be able to rival him would be like James Baldwin. But James Baldwin had a different approach to how he did things. But you watch some of the old, like, just go back and watch on YouTube because they got all kinds of videos for it. Stokely Carmichael, Muhammad Ali, because that boy was bad too when you got him in some of those interviews, and of course anything with Malcolm.
I was about to say Malcolm X had a style. Malcolm X.
Not poo-poo on Malcolm X.
Yeah, Malcolm X wasn't this radical blah 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 yelling at everything else, but his delivery was so. This is the facts. You're not going to change my mind. This is how I feel. This is how my people feel. This is what we want. This is what we don't want. And it's just, you look at him and you get mesmerized by not his, but it's more like he's just flat out just telling you nothing that you can do or say is going to change how I feel or think.
Malcolm he was just a master class of, and it's just the realness of him, right? Yeah. Because a big part of his story is the fact that he wasn't one of those college educated bourgeois Negroes of the time, right? He didn't have the benefit of coming up that side of the tree, so to speak, right? Martin was groomed to be Martin. Now, granted, Martin's was a great man, but he was the educated bourgeoisie side of the black movement. Malcolm was purely from the streets, purely just a natural talent that came up, right? And there's a lot that goes into those particular stories. So, yeah, never would I, poo-poo on Malcolm. Like you said, I agree. He's just a phenomenal man. Awesome. But but Stokely is that's just that dude, Malcolm probably would have been that too if they didn't murder him. But yeah, it was, those are ones I would definitely say if you're interested in just being blown away by the natural intelligence and gifts of those leaders. What happened?
Malcolm was a retired gangster.
Yeah, I mean Malcolm. Yeah, right? I mean, not to go. Well, he was never a gangster, but the point's taken, right? He was street. He was a street dude, right? definitely came up the hard way of a lot of things, right? But he is. That's what the part that annoys me so much about America is the hypocrisy of America. In Malcolm, you literally had the American dream put right in front of you, right? This was a person that had all the obstacles in life that you could many of the obstacles in life that you could have, and he did things to survive. Then he did things out of malice. He was actually a bad guy for a while.
Yeah.
He went to prison. In prison, he was reformed. He wasn't reformed by the prison, but he was reformed in prison. He comes out. He's self-educated. He's disciplined. He's raising a family. He's helping to build religious organizations and resistance and things of that nature in a peaceful manner. You don't have a single event of the Nation of Islam actually being a violent entity. It just doesn't exist. That everything that makes a person think of the Nation of Islam as violent is purely from the white power structure not liking someone opposing them. No violence, though. Plenty of violence towards them. No violence coming back.
Okay, we'll have to agree to disagree on that one.
Where was there violence with the Nation of Islam?
They didn't do violence, but they have a lot of anti-Semitic views. I can't get with.
Okay, so I would that's a wonderful point. Violence. So that's a different thing than what I was talking about, but it's a good point. Now, how can a Semitic people be anti-Semitic? That's part of the issue. So when you hear people saying that the Nation of Islam is anti-Semitic, one, what they're usually pointing to is Minister Farrakhan back in the 80s when he made the statement that Judaism is he was talking about Zionism is a gutter religion, when he was talking about Judaism being used by Zionists to do things. And that is usually where everybody kind of comes at, and they say, well, that was anti-Semitic. And the thing is, the Jewish people are not the only Semites. The Arab people are Semites. So the fact that the Jewish community or the nation of Israel has taken on such of a position that any criticism of them is automatically cast as anti-Semitic, which is an unfair deflection. See, this is one of the things that Stokely Carmichael often spoke on as well. Judaism is a wonderful religion. Judaism is one of the oldest religions. Now, my personal opinion, Judaism is more of a real religion than Christianity, because Christianity was never told to exist. They just decided to make it. I mean, no one can show me where Christ said, create a religion out of me. Can't do it. So Judaism is a very a beautiful faith in a religion. But Zionism is a political movement operating behind the religion. Kind of like being a white supremacist or a Christian nationalist, right? They're hiding behind Christianity. Zionists hide behind Judaism. And then they weaponize it to make dissent seem like you're being anti-Semitic. And that's what the Nation of Islam will oftentimes point to and fight back against. But I'm not here as a member of the Nation of Islam, because I'm not. But the point you raised, that's one of the things I really wish people would think more about, because are they really anti-Semitic? And what is it that would lead someone to think that they are?
I don't want anybody to answer, because then we'll be going way into like the third hour, and we're trying not to do that.
Third hour?
Yeah, I know we're like 7 minutes. Yeah, you see 7 minutes. We're 2 hours and 7 minutes in. I guarantee you, we actually start answering these questions, we will be going into 3-hour mode. You know it, and I know it. We've done it before.
But Parker, you should just read the autobiography of Malcolm X. He
explains. But why do y'all think Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad? I only knew a little bit part of that story. He follows up with this. But why do you think Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam? Parker, this is what I ask you to do. Please email me that question, and we'll do a complete show on it. Because again, not only do I want to be that show, that network, YouTube channel, whatever you want to call me, that we talk about subjects, get to the root of it, pull no punches and everything else. I do want to still educate. And as much as we know a lot of things on here, everybody on this panel has a little bit more knowledge than the other person on a variety of things. But we also got to remember that there are people out there who don't know nothing of what we're talking about. And I want to be the one who educate things on things I feel people may not know about. So email me so I don't forget, so we can do a show or even a piece of Malcolm X life at the end part of it, because I really do feel a lot of people don't know the ending part of Malcolm X before his assassination. I think they all know from, I don't even think a lot more than not
Because the stuff they got from like some of the movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, more than not people know the beginning. More than obviously a lot more people know the middle. Very few know the end. So I really feel like that we need to do a show on the end part of Malcolm X's life. All right, Learn Life. You take care, man. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
I would love a show on that. I know a lot about Malcolm X way back, but I've forgotten most of it. Yeah, I think we need to do a segment on it. That's fair. I knew it was a complex topic, and y'all, it would be cool to see y'all do just a segment on it. And I think that is a important segment. I think we need to do a lot of segments, and this Dr. Martin Luther King too, because there was a lot of.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of differences at the end before his life was taken too, that people don't know.
I think, yeah, I think that I mean, we oftentimes, we make the statement about how we're only told about 3 people, Martin and what's the name on the bus?
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks.
On the bus.
Right. I mean, that sounded dismissive, and I apologize.
No, but, I'm sorry.
I mean, but
the first thing that popped in my head was wheels on the bus, and I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nah,
that's me being silly. It's late. It's me being silly.
No, but we often make those comments, but at the same time, their stories aren't very well told.
No.
When you covered Rosa Parks, it brought her to life far more than the postage stamp explanation that we usually get for her, right?
She was tired and her feet hurt.
That she was just tired. She just happened to be there.
Tired, and right? She sat down and she refused to move, and that's how this whole civil rights,
which boiled down to angry Black woman, right? So no, I think their stories are very important, and I
angry.
Well, that I agree that we should be angry. And as you guys have heard me say before, one of my biggest frustrations is that we don't remain angry. And if you would study, those out there, really study or look into the videos, just watch videos, I don't care, about Stokely Carmichael. And that's one of his major things from the beginning all the way to the end. So from his 20s to the day he died, was about the difference between organizing and mobilizing. Our community, the Black community, is excellent at mobilizing. We are terrible at organizing. So we get angry and then we get past it. And then we get angry and then we get past it. That's mobilizing. That'll give you some short-term gains. But organizing, that's where the real work happens. That's where you take the unconscious and make them conscious. Because once you're conscious, once you're woke, it's hard to go back to sleep. You start to see the things that before you were ignoring, or you start trying to actually address the ills that affect your community. The Black Panther Party was a woke organization. They saw a need to police the police, so they did something. They saw that in order for you to be able to uplift a community and get them engaged with being in love with being who they are, first, you have to give them something to sustain themselves. So that's where the breakfast program came from. That's where the clinics, the free clinics came from. It wasn't just a socialist communist thingy that they were doing. If you want to, and I'm sorry I'm waxing long, but there's a brother, his name is Polite. I don't know how to spell it because it's spelled funny, but it was one time he's like one of those street philosophers, right? And he was having a debate with some dude, and he made a point that was so deep for me. He was like, the one brother was like, I'm so tired of black folks. They I can give them the truth, I give them the light, I give them all this information, and they still don't do anything. They still in love with the white man. They still in love with all this stuff. And sometimes you'll hear me say something to those similar effects. But then what the brother said back was, you got to give people something. If you're going to take something from somebody, you got to give them something. See, that white man, the proverbial white man that people are in love with, it's not that they really love that white man. It's the fact that in order to eat, that white man is the one who gave them a job, right? In order to house their family, that white man is the one they got to pay rent to. See? So if you want to pull our people away from our abusers, then you have to start to give them something to replace that which you're taking. If you can't hire a man, don't tell that man to quit his job. If you can't feed that man's family, don't tell that man to strike his employer. That's stupid. Your exchange is, I'm gonna give you knowledge, but you give up sustenance. Who's gonna take that deal? So that's why it's so important to build our communities, to build businesses, build schools, build all those things. Because once we start to have our own infrastructure, we don't need theirs as much. And now you can start to pull that separation piece apart and start to compete and not just be, dependent. Marlon, you're mute.
And I'm just a talking. Why do y'all think there seems to be less of an effort to whitewash Malcolm X's legacy as opposed to the bigger effort to whitewash MLK's legacy? It's a twofold question. You either go to whitewash it or villainize it. Malcolm X whole mentality, civil rights movement, and everything was nonviolence. Kind of hard to villainize nonviolence. Violence happened to you, but it's kind of hard to villainize that, hey, these people are not trying to hurt you. Can't do that with Malcolm X. Malcolm X wasn't violent. There's no record of them being violent at all. But any means necessary meant that we will, just like the Black Panthers, we will protect ourselves. Which means we are not saying nonviolence. We are nonviolence unless violence is not towards us. We're not going to go in there with guns ablazing to take what we feel is deemed to be rightfully ours. At the same time, we are not turning the other cheek. That's not us. You raise your hand to me, I'm raising my hand to you. So, in other words, and I'll just use that analogy so we can move on. You raise your hand to me, I'm going to raise my hand to you. Turns to you raise your hand to me, I'm going to come into your white neighborhood and burn all your houses down and kidnap all your children. And they have to villainize people who stands up for themselves. So that's why it's very hard to whitewash Malcolm X compared to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Well, it's also about what can we weaponize, like what Marlon was saying. Because I wouldn't. Once again, I invite you look into the slave codes. That's your first search. Read up on that. Then look up the black codes. Okay, read up on that. That will help put into context the Malcolm and the Martin situation. So the reason why Malcolm was villainized is because Malcolm brought up the realities of humanity. He asserted our humanity and would say, I will fight back. But not only will I fight back, I reject you. You do not want me, and I don't want you. And I'm okay with that. And that is a direct defiance of everything that the white culture in America is built on. We're supposed to be desperate to be with you. We're supposed to still be wanting to be accepted and assimilated. So when we finally have someone who says, no, I understand. You don't want me. You don't want me around. You don't want my children around your children. You don't want my women around your women. And you know what? I agree with you. I don't want your children around my children. I don't want your women around my women. I don't want your men anywhere around my men. The fact that you're being rejected is a foreign feeling. So you react to it. And Malcolm was everything about being a black man, right? Then you have Martin. Martin was much more of the acceptable role. He came at it from a more nuanced and gentle approach where I want to be accepted. I want you to understand our humanity and accept our humanity. I want integration. I want cohabitation. I want us to live in peaceful agreement. See, there's no trade-off there, right? I'm not making a demand of you. I'm just simply saying stop being violent because we are not going to be violent. So you can take a Martin story, omit all the radical pieces of him because he was a very radical man, but omit all the radical pieces about him and just put forward that clean, wholesome part that makes you feel good about yourself. And now you can steal Martin's legacy.
Yeah.
That's what they did with Muhammad Ali. They hated Muhammad Ali from the day he gave up those medals. They hated that man. Hated him. Until he was old and feeble and suffering from Parkinson's. Now you were willing to see him as the athlete of before, completely omit his entire adult life and all of that work and take it back to the kind man who was running with the torch. And then you remaster his story.
Yep.
That's what white America does.
Yep. Forget about his rejection of the Vietnam War. Forget about the fact you put him in prison. Forget about the fact that you took his medals.
Yep.
Yeah. Everything you took everything from this man. And he was and he said okay. See, that's the part that once again, it's all about when you reject whiteness, when you uncenter whiteness, and you say, you know what, whiteness is no longer the center of the universe. Whiteness is just one more planet in the solar system. God is the center of the universe, or the center of the solar system, or whatever you want to call it. But God is the center. And then we're all just planets rotating around God. You're not better or less than me. Whiteness can't handle that because it's never been made to handle that. So it reacts to the rejection. And so that's where you get these issues. And right now, you got more education, you got more access to information, you got people who are being self-educated, and all of this. We're basically going through a new renaissance. We're going through the conservative movement is trying to push us backwards, right? if you're looking at it in a reverse timeline, we are now in the 60s, and they're pushing really, really hard to get us into the 50s. And we're on the opposite end with our allies and friends and stuff, pushing backwards, pushing forward, saying, okay, we didn't get engaged soon enough. We didn't stop you from pushing us from the 2020s into the 2000s into the 1990s. We didn't do a good job. You got us. All right, you got us. But we refuse to go into the 50s. So now we're pushing back. The gay community is pushing. The Black community is pushing. The Asian community is pushing. The Latino community is pushing. The non-Christian nationalist white community is pushing. They're all pushing to try to get back towards where we're supposed to be. And the conservative movement is trying to push us back the other direction. And we have that friction. So it's time for that renaissance, right? And that's where we are right now.
And this was the light show, ladies and gentlemen.
It's about to be as light as you gonna get. All right, so fine, Tracy. I will end the show.
Well said, Thea.
Well said, Theas.
I didn't hear
he
you,
did say I didn't disagree with
She said, well said, Theas.
Oh.
Thank you.
I just hate giving credit to Theas on anything.
Yeah, me too.
It's okay.
It's just
It's all right.
Just turns my stomach a little bit. But